All right, guys. Welcome to Tactical Foul. I'm Kyle Grew. We have Stevie and Steve Walker here. And we're going to do a little recruitment series where we're going to address some of the biggest questions ranging from 8th graders all the way up to seniors in high school about the recruitment process, what you need to do, what you shouldn't do, and everything in between. So today we're going to start with 8th graders and high school freshmen as our as the big interest today. So how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Doing great.
Good. So the first question that we have, what should players start with? When should players start on the recruiting process? Steve, why don't you take this one first?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different rules that go into when coaches can actually physically talk to you and start discussing their programs. But I mean, the 8th grade year, the freshman year of high school, I mean, as early as you possibly can to start to do your research. Obviously, go to as many college programs. Obviously, there's quite a lot of college programs in our area as well. So I suggest kind of visiting the campuses. Obviously, going checking the games out as well. And again, up until a certain point, you know, the coach really can't have much interaction with you. If you obviously do your own diligence and research by that time comes around, it kind of helps a lot with the conversation if you've already done your research on their program. So,
absolutely. So Stevie, if you agree, that's fine. But do you think that starting earlier may be a benefit?
I think it's important that they have to have an idea.
Okay.
Because like you'll get some kids who decide as a senior that they now want to play college soccer, and the realism of going to play college soccer as a senior it's just not enough time, enough prep, because you know when we do our ID camps in the last 4 years of ID camps, we've had like 400, 500 kids come through.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't really, like, to do as a senior. Like we're talking to players today. For example, we had 2 phone calls today for recruits for 2021, and we've not even got to the fall season yet. So I think it's more of I would definitely go to ID camps. That would be my biggest thing. Relevant of your age, you know, as long as the school allow you, which usually they want freshmen only. But
okay.
just go to as many as you can to understand what the process is. Because every ID camp is different. Every single ID camp is a different process and how they do things. So it's important that you go through many of them to understand what protocols, because when you go to these ID camps, if coaches like you, they can tell you, hey, listen, you know, keep in contact with us, because up until your junior year, Division 2 cannot talk to any player until their junior year, where
Right.
Division 1 can start as sophomores. So it all depends on what you want to do as a player. But going to ID camps is definitely one thing I would tell anybody, even if you just to go and you don't want to go to college. More touches on the ball. You're going to be playing with a lot of kids and a lot of older kids. So it's going to get you better anyway.
Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Steve?
yeah, no, that's massively important for sure. Because I mean, again, you know, tied in with those ID camps, you know, something that we do. Obviously, you're on campus, so you get to see the school as well. You know what I mean? And the team's usually involved. I know at our ID camp last year, we had some of the players involved from like an evaluating side, and they were there and sort of checking out the players that are at the camp. So it gives you a good kind of feel of you know how the program's run, you know what the players are like within the program, what the school is like, what the school offers.
Absolutely.
So it's massively important for sure.
All right, awesome. So the next question is kind of wrapped into what you guys have already been talking about. You've given some ideas, ID camps and different things like that. But what would you say is the most important step for anyone that's just getting ready to start their recruitment process? Yeah, Stevie, go ahead and take that one away.
All right, I'll take that. So the biggest thing I think that most players don't understand is highlight footage.
Okay.
There are so many players that we see that will email us and say, hey, we're interested in coming, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then the next question is, would you have any footage so we can watch it? And they was like, no. because, you know, realistically as a coach, you get so many. I mean, I get 40, probably 50 emails a day about people wanting to come to Northwood, and being able to get through all the footage is very difficult. But if there's people with no footage, the chances of us watching them are pretty slim, like, if we're going to be honest. So, like, them getting footage to us so we can see, because if there's a player that we like, we'll pursue it. And we'll be like, yep, let's, you know, can you get some of your schedule? We want to come and watch a game. And then if there's players that we just don't think would fit our style and our, you know, the way we play and the way we have stuff, you know, we'll let them know that, hey, listen, we don't have any spots on our first team, but our second team will potentially could be an option for you. But footage is huge. There's so many senior kids who email us and tell us, hey, I want to come to Northwood, but I don't have any video of me playing. That's, I think that is a massive thing for young kids.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking on what Stevie said then, as far as the footage is you know, give us a variety when you do have your highlights. Like, you know, if you're a forward, yeah, it's good to see you scoring goals, but I don't need to see 5 minutes of you just tapping the ball into the back of the net. You know, like, give us some variety so it kind of, you know, we can see, you know, how you could potentially fit within our program. You know what I mean? And highlight your strengths. I think one of the things we talk about quite a lot about the footage is that the opening highlight. Like, if your opening highlight catches our attention, there's a good chance we're probably going to carry on, you know, kind of watching through.
It's kind of like reading a book.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a couple of highlights at the beginning where it's been like, you know, this kid, you know, scored an absolute worldie, or, you know, done something where you're like, okay, you know, sit up and kind of take notice, and then you maybe kind of follow up and kind of do from there. So that is huge. It's massive. So, and in this day and age, when you can get the footage and have the ability to kind of send stuff through, you know, and the different, you know, ways that you can send stuff through, obviously from phones and emails and, you know, the different contacts. Like today, again, we talked to a recruit today, actually just sent us a WhatsApp message, you know, so letting us know that he's committing. So there's a ton of different ways that you can get the information through to coaches and get your name out there.
So just to kind of follow up on this, you're talking about the highlight tapes. So obviously at this point, you kind of, if you want to highlight yourself, do you think, even though we're talking about young players, you know, be it 8th grade, freshman year, is it that much more important to kind of know what your strengths are? Maybe, you know, the position you're going to play, or at least think you're going to play, or what do you think?
I think the big thing is for the younger kids is just practice putting highlight videos together.
Okay.
Like getting footage and playing with it, and, you know, sending videos to, like, even their travel coach, like sending the highlight video and asking their travel coach, say, hey, what do you think of this? And then, you know, because 90% of travel coaches are knowledgeable enough to realize if it's a good video or bad video, or it's just, might as well not do it. So, like, just practicing and getting the right moments, and because the more you do the highlight videos and the more you practice them, the more you're going to be able to put one together where you're like, oh my goodness, we need to sign this kid. Because there's many times that me and Steve have the same highlight video, and he'll call me, he's like, did you watch it? And I'll be like, yeah, I got 15 seconds in and I got bored, so I don't watch anymore. So, like, I may have missed something that was unreal towards the end of it, but because the first 15, 20 seconds just didn't make me want to watch it, I didn't watch the rest of it. Where Steve was like, all right, you need to go to minute 3. So I'll go and watch it, where you can't take 3 minutes for someone to watch it. But again, I think it's just more practice, like the more videos they get. And also as well, what happens is when they do their own highlight video, they then start critiquing themselves. So then they're actually watching their own games and picking out their best moments and moments that were bad, which means that they're going to start evaluating the game a lot better. So it's a learning curve as well.
Awesome. So I think all of this leads into our next question. We're talking about the highlight tapes. Well, what does it take, especially for a young kid, to catch a college coach's eye?
I mean, there's a ton of different things that kind of go into it. One of the things that almost intrigues me the most when it comes to coaching is especially the college side of it, is it's almost that the coaches kind of joke there's 2 seasons: there's your in season and then your recruiting season. So the recruiting side of it for me is massively important, and it's something where you can build your team. You know what I mean? And a lot of I'd liken the recruiting process a lot to like how tryouts are run. You know, when you're watching a player, you know, you obviously look for a few different things. You obviously look for the technical, you know, makeup. You know, what sort of player are they on the ball? But also, you know, a lot of the things and a lot of the reasons why we try to do as much in person as we can is you like to see what they do off the ball. You know, what their body language is like, what they're not doing when they're in the play. You know, how do they kind of live within the team? You know, a lot of the stuff we ask for, if we've got highlight film, the next question we usually ask is for a full game to watch.
Okay.
Because again, it gives you, again, film doesn't really lie, so it gives you a full indication. So a lot of the times it's, you know, technical makeup, you know, of the player, athletic ability, again, but that is not always, you know, a deal breaker. You know, most of the time it's how they're technically based, you know, what kind of impact they have on their team. You know, obviously the travel coaches are important. Like the two guys we talked to today, that was led by their travel coach, and it was a very good call. So it all depends on, again, what you're also looking for from a player. You know, the one good thing when you're building your team, you know, we have the situation where both of our goalkeepers, one of our goalkeepers is a senior this year, so we know we didn't need to look for a goalkeeper.
Right.
You know, potentially we could have to next year start looking for a goalkeeper. So that's another thing. Like, it just depends on each position: goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, forward. So I think that's really the key things that we really look for when it's looking to trying to catch the coach's eye. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Stevie, I want to hear what you have to say about that. Just, you know, obviously, I think with that, talked a lot about the technical ability. You know, obviously the coaching staff that they've been under does a lot. And I think that goes probably throughout, you know, from the early on to the later stage. If you're sitting down tomorrow looking at an 8th grader or a freshman, what is the first thing you are looking for? And it may not even be their highlight tape. It could be, you know, I know academics plays a part, different things like that. What is it for you, though?
I mean, personally, for me, if I'm looking at an 8th grader or a freshman, I'd probably get in trouble by the NCAA. But if I was actually, like, if it was a team I was just generally watching.
Right, yeah.
Sure. I mean, you got to look at all different aspects of it. So if I'm watching a defender, are they going to make a big challenge? Are they going to make a challenge which is game-changing? Are they going to make a challenge where everybody goes, "Ooh, that was a challenge"? Because then you know they've got a little bit of guts about them. They don't mind getting in a physical, you know, they're getting physical when they're playing. You know, if I'm looking at a midfielder, it's more of a, what does he do when he's on the ball and what does he do when he's off the ball? Like, that's more of a, like, if I'm watching him, it's like, if he passes the ball, is he going to walk? Is he going to move? And the biggest thing that we look at is how they take criticism from coaches. Like, attitude is massive. Like, if they don't receive a ball that they think they should have done, how do they respond? Okay. If the coach is telling them something that they disagree with, how do they respond? Are they, you know, aggressive? Are they confrontational? Do they take it in? So most of the stuff that we look at as well, you know, as well as the technical side, is them as a person. How do they interact with their teammates? Because team chemistry is very, very important at the college level. So we need to know, you know, this players this year we've signed, and we've been talking to them for quite a long time now to really figure out if they're going to be a right fit for us. A couple of players we told that we didn't really want because just their attitudes weren't right. But their persona about themselves is something that's attracting. It's not just for us. We don't just look at the soccer side of it. It's them as a person. What do they do? Like, when they come off the field and they get substituted, do they have a tantrum? You know, do they take the criticism? Do they give everybody a high five? Like, what type of person are they? Are they going to be an individual player where it's all about them? Or are they going to be a team player where they're going to do what's best for the team?
That's a lot of good stuff for sure. So obviously, just my little takeaway from that, it's obviously you got to have the right technique as a player. I think that's obviously one of the first and foremost things. But the mentality of these kids has got to be, you know, top tier if you're going to get looked at. So you just have to be a well-rounded player, and, you know, and obviously by the time you're a senior, trying to be a well-rounded just person. That way you can handle all the things that come with playing at the college level.
For sure, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So the last part of this that I want to do is every time we'll end these with a top three from you guys. Each one of you will have a top three. Today, I want to hear some of the biggest mistakes you see young recruits and their families making. So we're going to start with Steve. However you want to give the list, whether it's your first to third or third to first, whatever you want to do.
So I say mistakes that I guess these are more of my, and this is kind of, when you say like young recruits, it's difficult to kind of, because they can't obviously contact, we're not really in contact with them. So this is kind of more the mistakes that we've seen from players.
For sure.
As we're kind of going through the recruiting stage. The first stage is, one of the big things is when we're recruiting players is obviously once they go into college is to deal with the player. Obviously a lot of the times, and it's only really happened once this recruiting season, is if I'm trying to recruit you, I'm pretty much going to deal with you. It's going to be how it is when you get to college. It's very different to the travel game. It's very different to the high school game. We don't deal with the parents. We don't deal with the mum and dad. We deal with strictly you as a player. So the players that have basically just sit there and let their parents do the talking for them.
Yeah,
that's pretty much an instant turn off. Because and the reason being is why I say it's an instant turn off is it just kind of lets me know that once you are separated from your parents, it's going to be difficult for you. And obviously we deal with obviously a lot of players from Michigan, but we deal with a lot of internationals as well.
Of course.
And 90% of the time, we start the conversation with the with the player, and then obviously once it starts to get a little bit further down the line, you start to talk about finances and stuff like that. Then the parents come into it, but you should just be dealing with the player, because ultimately that's who you're going to be dealing with when they come to the school. So that's one of the things that I would kind of highlight. And it's okay. Obviously now it's changed, the way that we have to do everything now. Everything's through the video call, so it's easy to kind of highlight. But when you get those players that basically have parents talk for them and do the whole thing, it's just a turn off.
Okay.
So that's my first one. Do we want to go 1 and 1 so I don't steal them all and Stevie's left with nothing?
I've got loads of them. Don't you worry about it, mate.
You rattle yours off.
Okay, so my number 2 is kind of going back to what we talked about previously before, is your footage. Make sure that your footage is watchable. I understand obviously this day and age, it's not always best. You can't get Premiership standard, NBC Sports standard footage, but make sure that it's you're viewable of the game. Make sure that if I'm watching a highlight, I know who you are. Circle yourself, highlight yourself, let me know who you are so that I can watch you as a player. But make sure the footage is watchable, and I can take something from it. I can kind of get a good idea from you as a player. So that's my second one. And then my third one kind of has to do with the communication with things. Again, Stevie said we get a ton of emails. I don't get as many as he does, but I get pretty much close. And the ones, and I've actually got a highlight list of them, of emails from people that send us emails that just don't even fill them out properly. Obviously I understand if you're emailing 20 coaches, you're going to have like a template of how what you send to people. But we've actually had emails from people that have actually called, and Steve laughing on the other side. They've actually, one email said to us, because XXXXX, but didn't even take the XXX out, like it filled the school. Yes, hadn't even filled in the blank. So, and then I got one the other week from a recruiting agency that hadn't even put my name on it. Hey, Mr. Last Name. So I actually responded to him though, and I copied Stevie on the response because he was trying to push a goalkeeper to us, and I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, be professional. How's this kid going to get anywhere if you're not even sending the right email? So those are kind of my top three. A few to do with communication. obviously make sure, your email, from that standpoint, I probably should kind of give some information. If you're sending an email, personal ones are massively important. If you're sending something to, and always direct things to the head coach. Obviously we talk a lot about what obviously goes on, but, coach players predominantly should go through the head coach all the time. And if you're sending an email, hey, Coach Shard, looked at your program and do your research, look into the program. Couldn't tell you the amount of times people have contacted us. Oh yeah, I want to do engineering or a business school. Good luck to you. There's not much I can do from you. So that's something else for the email. So
absolutely. All right, we got your three, Stevie. Let's hear yours now.
So the first one that is a pet peeve of mine is that everybody thinks there's a full ride. And it's just not realistic. Like, especially with the economy right now, like, people don't give out full rides because there's a lot of other different things involved in it. Scholarships, alumni money. So there's never, ever a full ride. So that's my biggest thing that I get so many emails from foreigners saying, hey, I'm looking for a full ride. Well, if life was good, I'd be looking to go on Weight Watchers and lose 150 pounds. It's just not that type of thing. So full rides just don't exist. They just don't. You may get close to it, but full rides just don't exist. And that's the biggest thing. That's my biggest pet peeve, that people always ask for full rides. My second one is everybody wanting to go D1. Now, I know we're a D2 school, so this may be, but like every player, and even travel players that I deal with, when you ask them where do you really want to go, they always throw out the top 10 schools in the country. And most of the time, you're not that level. Like, there's got to be a realism of where you are and what you want to do. And I think a lot of players don't really understand the realism of where they are in their ability to play. And I think that's got to be a big thing, that they've got to realize what they want to do is got to be in the level of where they're at. So if you're on a second team somewhere, saying you want to go play for Michigan is very unrealistic. Because Michigan won't even look at probably the first team. They're looking at people all over the country and all over the world. You know what I mean? So that would be my second one, is your realism of where you are. And the third one, I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Steve said regarding emails a little bit. The biggest pet peeve email I always get is when people email and don't address me as, so my email at Northwood is shards@northwood.edu. So it's my last name with my first initial.
Right. I
get addressed as Shards. So they've not even looked at my name. And it's piggybacking off. It's kind of the same as Steve. It's content of the email. Like, I get people who couldn't even tell us who we played in the fall. Like, they have no idea. Like, they've not looked at, when people email me and tell me our record and how many seniors I'm leaving, I'm going to read the rest of the email, because I know they've gone onto the website and they've actually looked at, even if it's just the roster, and gone, oh, there's 8 seniors leaving, and they went 11 and 8 this year. Like, the content of the email is huge when you're emailing coaches, because we get so many a day. Like, if the first couple of paragraphs don't say, hey, Coach Stevie, or hey, Coach Shard, I'm interested in coming. Fall season of 11 and 8 was good. Losing to Saginaw at home was a bit of a, killer at the end. Like, giving me detail of my season tells me that they're very interested. So even if a kid we don't think is good enough that would come, I will spend the time and effort to respond to him when I can, because he's made an effort to take an interest in the program. We've had people email us and tell us some teams that another school have played. Not even who we've played, it's just random teams.
Yeah.
Like, telling me about the fall, they've got my record wrong, they've got my opponents wrong, and it's like, I didn't realize I coached for a different school. So those are my top 3 for sure.
Awesome. I think there's a lot of information. Obviously, I coach, we all coach at the youth level as well, kids that are getting ready to be recruited or are starting that process. And I think it's a lot of good information that we've got here today. I just want to quickly, for everyone that is watching, go back through these top threes with a little, I'll use a little less words because I don't know as much about it. So I had to write some stuff down. So Steve's top three in order. Families are too involved. That's his number one mistake.
Yeah, from the first part, from the initial contact. Yeah,
absolutely. The kids have to take a little bit more responsibility. It kind of goes back to the, our past conversation we were just having. Like, you want the kids to be well-rounded enough to where they can handle all the things. And if they can't handle a simple email or a phone call by themselves, that's not a good thing. Number
Absolutely.
2, make sure the footage, having poor footage. So making sure your footage is going to catch the eye, but also, make sure that they know who they're watching. Do a little bit of editing.
Yep.
And it's not easy. And it goes back to what Stevie was saying, take some time and learn how to do it. That way, at the end of the day, when you finally throw out your final video, it looks good and it's going to help you and not hurt you.
Right.
For sure.
Number 3, and this is a shared thing. It has to do with emails, but proofread your emails. Make sure you know what you're putting in your emails, and make it seem like you care a little bit. Because if you are leaving things out, if you're leaving, your name, you're leaving the coach's name or whatever it is, that's noticeable, and it's probably going to get thrown in the trash real fast or put up on a highlight tape of bad emails. Either way, it's not a good thing for you. So be very aware of what you are sending and what kind of communication you're having. That's for sure. And then to Stevie's top 3, number 1, not understanding the financial situations, not understanding how scholarships work. If people could, I'm sure a lot of people would get full rides, but that's just not the way it is. There's no college anywhere that gives everyone full rides. And it's definitely not happening at the D2 level or really any level. So understand how the finances work for sure. That's majorly important. Number 2, you have to be realistic and you have to have a good self-awareness for yourself. That doesn't mean not to set like goals or anything like that, but you have to make sure you are aware of what your level is and what is, the right place for you. Because if you think you're going to Michigan and like they said, you're playing on a second team, you're probably going to be pretty disappointed and your options are going to be pretty limited if that's all you looked at. And then number 3, it goes back to the emails again. Do your research as well. So like Steve said, make sure you know what you're putting in your emails. But with Stevie's point, have the research done. Show that you actually know a little bit about the school you are looking at, and make them personal. Those are our top 3 from each one of those guys. They're great things, and I think a lot can be learned from that. So anything else? Any last words from you guys about this?
No.
I mean, hopefully it's been some good information. Maybe some information that you probably didn't know previously before, which will obviously help you in your recruiting process. So,
yeah, if you guys have any questions, find us at Northwood and throw us an email, and we'll do what we can to try and help you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. This has been Tactical Follow, our recruitment series, and we will be back with another edition very soon. Thanks, guys.